Hello world, I am the mystic philosopher and you are tuned to the right number. In my video titled I am black and I am proud, another perspective, from my series of videos called Redemption from the Curse of the Black Spell, I explained in great detail, while quoting from the infamous Willie Lynch letter called The Making of a Slave, I explained a number of very important points, a few of which I think is very relevant to this presentation and which I want to quickly reiterate here as I lay a solid foundation for this presentation. I explained, number one, I explained the fact that the English language is not our natural native earthly human language. Two, I explained the fact that the English language is not the original language, nor is it the language of the people and descendants of the geographical region of our planet Earth that is today called Africa, but that the English language, is the language of the British Anglo-Saxons, the European alien conquerors, colonizers, the human traffickers, slave masters, the brutes, their descendants, and their heirs and successors. That's their language. Number three, I explained the fact that today we, the highly melaninated skin tone people of African ancestry, the victims and the descendants of the economic slavery system the world over, but particularly the victims and the descendants of the European economic slavery system here in the West, I explained that we do not have an active language of our own. I explained the fact that we were and we are given a newly created bastardized version of the slave master's English language. Number five, number four, I explained the fact that we do not know and understand the true English language, which is the elite's, slave masters' English language. And number five, I explained the fact that we, meaning our African ancestors back then, that I explained that our African ancestors back then and we today were not, and we are not taught the slave master's English language and the language of his slavery economic system. Six, I explained the fact that it was not the intent of the British slave masters then, nor is it the intention of their descendants, their heirs and successors today, to have us, the people of African descendants, and particularly descendants of their slaves, those of us that they consider to be their inferiors. It is not their intent to have us learn, know, and understand their elite, what I also refer to as their bourgeoisie, English language and their language of their precious European slavery economic system. Number 7, I explain the fact that to know and to truly understand the English language, the slave master's language, is to know and to understand their innermost secrets, thereby giving us the power to potentially put an end to their evil slavery economic system. Number 8, I explained the fact that from my perspective, one of the reasons, if it is not the main reason, why some of our African children are having problems, serious problems I might add, absorbing, processing, and regurgitating information, the system's education in the system's schools and learning institutions, is because they do not have their own ancestral language. And consequently, they are labeled by the system with all kind of what I also perceive as false diagnosis. Diagnosis with names such as learning disorders, learning disabilities, learning handicaps, etc. And as a result of some of these false diagnoses, they are then segregated and are placed in what I think are all kinds of inferior learning programs. This, from my perspective, is definitely not because our African children are naturally foolish, naturally dumb, or not because they are loggerheads, or they are stupid, nor are they suffering from any of these so-called diagnosed learning disorders. But it is simply, from my perspective, it is simply because they do not have nor know their own original mother language and their own original mother tongue as their foundation. They do not have that foundation. It is because they do not have as a foundation their own original mother language and tongue, a language and tongue that was violently severed from our African ancestors, who are the victims of the transatlantic slave trade. Consequently, they, like us, are being forced to adopt, to learn and speak in a foreign language and a foreign tongue that is alien or foreign to them, alien and foreign to their ancestral language that is coded in their DNA. And not only are they forced to learn an alien language without a clue of their own original language, but they are forced to learn a specially designed, bastardized slave version of the alien slave masters, the conquerors and colonizers' English language. Number 9, I explain the fact that not because a person, however distinguished by the society's qualifications, eloquent and well articulate he or she may be, particularly if he or she is a person that is of African ancestry. I explain that not because such a person is literate, meaning he or she is able to read and write, and maybe he or she is able to read and write well in the English language, and not because he or she may be educated in some of the slave masters' slavery economic system's most prestigious and Ivy League learning institutions, be it Cambridge, Oxford, Harvard, Yale, you name them. Not because he or she may have a master's degree or a PhD in English language means that he or she knows and truly know and understand the master's English language and his secrets. In fact, even with some of those training and degrees that they have, or that they may have received, most don't even have a clue as to who or what their real masters are. Number 10, I explained the fact that speaking and communicating in our natural, native, earthly human language is as natural as breathing, as natural as a healthy heart, that even though we are not always consciously aware of its continuous workings, but it is still beating. Speaking and communicating in our natural and ancestral language and mother tongue is or would be as natural as the wind that is blowing and birds that are chirping in the trees. Number 11, I explained the fact that the English dictionaries are some of the most important books, if not the most important books in the entire English language. For within them are to be found almost all the secrets of the masters. And by English dictionaries, I mean lexicons, encyclopedic dictionaries, etymology dictionaries, law dictionaries, etc. Number 12, I explained the fact that I will reiterate it now, that as far as I, the mystic philosopher, am concerned, that I really don't care, nor am I overly impressed with which of the system, schools, or learning institutions in which a person may have been educated, for as long as he or she is calling him or herself black, and the people he or she love and care for black, while thinking and believing that he or she is black, and as long as he or she is calling Caucasian people white people, while honestly thinking and believing that they are really white, then he or she is either being deceived or he or she is an educated black fool. No ifs or buts about it. And number 13, I explained the fact that if you are deceived, then you need not be deceived any longer, for the light of truth has come. This is the 21st century, the year 2012 to be precise, the dawning of the new age. Some call it the age of enlightenment, the age of illumination, the age of truth and revelation, the age of Aquarius, the Aquarian age. No need for us being in mental, physical, spiritual blackness, to be in mental, physical, and spiritual blackness, to be in darkness and ignorance anymore. Therefore, I suggest that you repent and stop cursing yourself by calling your children and your loved ones black. And repent and stop blessing some very undeserving Caucasian and European people by calling them by the highly exalted word, sound, vibration, sign and symbol white. According to the Bible, at times of ignorance or at times of your ignorance, even God will wink at your ignorance. But now you know the truth. I suggest that you must repent and change your blackened ways. So, today's video presentation is a continuation of my series of presentations titled The Redemption from the Curse of the Black Spell. And the title of this video is Ignorance, the Ignorance of White and Black Supremacy Exposed. In this video, I will shed some more light on what I see and what I also call the erroneous ideologies of so-called white supremacy, also called white power, and the erroneous ideologies of so-called black supremacy, also called black power. In order to be fair, by illustrating the fact that I am not only about seeking and possible knowing the truth, and not in any way appear as if I am biased towards the side of any of these that I call erroneous ideologies, other than the fact, which I must admit upfront, that I am biased against Satan, his angels, his ministers, and his chosen people, who, from my perspective, are the real architect and perpetrators of these deceptions. I will be examining this topic from as much relevant angles and perspectives as I possibly can, and as exhaustively as I possibly can in this presentation. I must also let you know right here and now that there are other subjects, subtopics, subtitles that I think are very important to be included and talk about in this presentation in order to add support and shed more light on the main topic, thereby giving you, my viewers, my listeners, and critiques, a broader and unbiased perspective. So I am sure you will recognize these topics when I get to them, along with their relevance. Like some of my previous videos and video presentations in the series Redemption from the Curse of the Black Spell, I will be segmenting this presentation, or if you prefer, I will be breaking it up into about 15 or maybe 16 segments, because I have a lot of material to cover, a lot of things to say, a lot of thought-provoking ideas to give you, and I want to do so, or to do it, so that you may be able to stop at a segment and start another segment from right where you left off, or even if you may want to repeat the segment for clarification or for whatever reason, etc. I am also well aware of the fact that our most precious, or our most limited and most valuable resource as natural native earthly humans is the thing we call time. It is the only thing that our mother nature and our source gave us, that once shared, once spent, once given away, or once invested, we just cannot get any of it back. From my perspective, it is the only investment or seed that does not yield in kind. Time does not breed time. And so I want you to know that I truly appreciate every moment that you have given, or of your limited amount of time, to listen to the mystic philosopher. Objectives. What are my objectives? Some of you might be asking. My main objective in doing videos, talks, sometimes radio interviews or lecture presentations, etc., is to simply and honestly share my perspective, also called another perspective, the mystic philosopher, on all subjects, or on all the subjects and topics on which I often think about and speak about. Secondly, it is to hopefully provoke people into thinking and reflecting more deeply, more critically and analytically for themselves on many of the things and ideologies that they may have through customs, religions, and traditions inherited, accepted, believed, and have simply taken them all for granted. They never seriously question them. And as such, they have embraced and are embracing them as being the gospel truth, the unshakable truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. This is the end of video 1. Please switch to video 2 at your convenience for the continuation of this presentation titled Ignorance of White and Black Supremacy Exposed.